All right, everybody, we are back. Larry, we're back. We had a great
We are back.
homestand. Um, I know it didn't end the way folks wanted
Mm,
to. You know, but I think all in all it was successful. It put into perspective how good this team can be, and I know a lot of folks will say, "Well, the competition this, competition that." Sometimes you just got to play some ball and work through some things. But we're here. We're going to recap the week, maybe a little bit more than that. Talk about some of our outfielders, our relief pitching, and stuff like that. So before we move on, Larry, anything you want to call out before we get into anything?
well, let me just put the ads in it, Clint. So, hey, Clint and I would really appreciate if you guys are watching this on YouTube or if you come watch this later on, please like the YouTube channel. Hey, Clint, is this being simulcast on Twitter? I forgot to ask you that.
Yes, it is actually.
Okay, so people on Twitter, if you're watching this now, I'm going to ask you, please come to YouTube. That way you engage us in the chat on YouTube. And then also, please like and subscribe, like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And the link is there
Yeah.
on Twitter. I
So
tweeted the link to the video.
the caveat to that is you have to come to my Twitter page to find
There you
the
go.
live stream. So if you're there, you might as well follow because I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. You're already there. Just hit the follow button.
You're
It's
already
pretty
there.
easy. In order to see Larry's feed, you have to go to YouTube. So, um, diversify, divide and conquer, whatever you want to call it. Eventually, we want everybody on YouTube. But right now, I guess what we'll call it is spreading the footprint. I really want to push it at least for Twitter on my side to get some guys to obviously get some of you folks to follow, and then we'll get into YouTube. But Larry and I have talked about some other stuff we want to do, so I think it's really fun and interesting, and how we improve this because right now we're weekly. Maybe we need to get um, a little more frequent. So we'll talk about that and we'll work on that as we go. But besides that, Larry, let's hop right in.
So let's go.
So tonight's agenda, we're gonna do a moneymaker update. Talk about those picks, how things have looked. I can personally say I've enjoyed it. I've had a pretty good week with it. The latest talk about the Abreu saga, what's going on with him, what we've heard, where it's going. The next interesting point will be how will they use Loperfido with Chaz coming back? I know he's been back for a couple of days, but I think the usage long term is a big thing to talk about. And we might even have a little bit of some Jake Myers tidbits in there as well. So hang around and listen to that. We're going to talk about the relief pitching turnaround. Larry and I talked about it real quick before we hopped on, but I think we've seen a lot of progress out of our perennial relief pitchers, and obviously Hader, our closer. And I think it's going to play into a lot of the reasons. At least it's going to play into one of the top three reasons we have confidence for the rest of the season. And then we'll talk about some concerns we have rest of the season. We'll open up a Q&A. Larry and I might just talk for ever. No, I'm just kidding. But we might talk about a few different things.
Well, get me
Um,
going.
but let's see where it goes. So with that, Larry, shall we go ahead?
Yeah, let's go. And let me do in one more commercial. And if you guys are enjoying the content here, a lot of things we're going to talk about are tied to things that are directly on the Larry the GM site. And if you haven't gone there, please go to LarryTheGM.com and become a member. And if you really want the inside information that we're about to talk about, become a premium member for the series previews and become a Moneymaker member for the picks that we're talking about. And because Clint, as you know, I'm coming back.
Yep.
See my picks. Go ahead, Clint. Go to the next slide. My picks have
Yeah,
kind of
I
followed the Astros
just
season.
before just
Okay.
one thing while we transition, I want to thank Miss Scott for the call out saying you guys
Yeah.
put out some
Thank
of the
you, Miss
most
Scott.
thoughtful Astros content, trying to get the word out. We appreciate it. Thank you. That's why we do it because we want the Astros fans to understand the game within a game, but to understand what this team is really working towards, how they're doing it, and really have some depth for what we see on the field day in and day out. So let's get back to the Moneymakers.
All right. So there's a typo here. It should be through 523. So this is data up to last night. And my season my picks have followed the Astros season. They're a little cold at first. Larry's calibrating exactly how I want it, what the numbers mean towards the Bovada pick tables. But I am now one game under 500, and total bets that we've placed minus 75. Now, if you'll jump all the way over to the right, you'll realize that Jordan Alvarez, little hint, he's going to show up later in this content. Jordan Alvarez has been killing the moneymaker picks, and basically minus 1620 for Jordan Alvarez, assuming a standard bet of 100 or action at 100. So he's been killing them, and as he gets better, the money makers are going to get better.
Yeah.
But overall, since April 27th, when the Astros were in Mexico City, these picks have been paying out at a rate of plus 13%, plus 1280, 47 and 36, 56.6%. Guys, we're hot. I tell the money makers, like, it's up to you how you use the numbers, but I'm going to give you the numbers and give you some recommendations, and you use them. Now, Clint, tell the people how you use the moneymaker data.
Well, actually, while we're there, let me pull up the history because I can tell you where it went right. I have a little bit of a caveat though, only because I use Underdog Fantasy for mine, so it usually requires me to make two picks, and they can't be on the same team, so there's always a little bit of a hit. But I did pick up, and this was a good one. So when Griffin Canning started during the week, so we had Diaz higher than half a hit, and then we had Jordan Alvarez higher than 1.5 bases. I'm pretty sure he homered that game.
Yeah.
And I think Tucker homered too. I think that was the back-to-back homer game.
Yeah.
So and then I picked up on the Griffin Canning one, but I also picked up on I had the other one, which was we had the pitcher who was giving up the 5 runs. I believe that was
last night, right?
Joey Estes.
Oh, okay. Joey, yeah.
So I took Joey Estes for higher than 5.5 hits. Sorry, guys, 5.5 hits, and then I took Diaz for higher than 1.5 total bases. So I'm up about 170% on the small amount of money I've been putting into this.
There you go. But you've
so-
paid for your moneymaker for the month.
But I do pay for my Moneymaker. You've heard it here, folks. You've heard it here first. I pay for the Moneymaker subscription, and I've already paid for at least 6 months worth of it.
There you go. Happy
So
customer.
easy enough. Yep.
All right, let's go for it. I don't want it to be an advertisement, but folks, just
No.
let you know when we're making recommendations, we're not just pulling it out of our end.
Right.
There's really a science and data behind what we're doing.
Yeah. One other tidbit is I've been watching some Alvarez film, so maybe we'll talk about him at the very end whenever we get there, because there are a few mechanical things that I might bounce off of you, Larry, and we'll see how we feel about it. It's not concrete, but let's get into it either way. So,
all right.
As we update the Abreu saga, he's obviously been down in West Palm Beach doing whatever mechanical, technical fixes that they've been trying to do with him, working on fast twitch muscles and all that great stuff. But it sounds like he's going to be reporting to AAA Sugarland this weekend. Obviously, that's big news. I think that's fast news. I mean, you would probably agree as well, Larry, right? That's pretty fast for those folks. Not sure what changed in that amount of time, but I have my own opinion of it. I'll let you go first before I get into it myself.
Well, so Clint, you remember what my number one rule is, right? Don't pay attention to what people say, pay attention to what they do, right? And they've been saying some things, and they kind of backtracked on those words. Like he was going to be here tomorrow, and then like, well, we're going to send him to Sugarland for the weekend, and maybe he'll be here next week. Just pay attention to what they do, guys. And so it's interesting to me. Like either we have the greatest sports science staff in West Palm Beach that was able to figure something out, and hey, that could be true, right? But it does open up all kinds of questions. Like, wait a minute, why are the guys able in West Palm Beach to fix this guy in like a matter of a week or 2 weeks, and we couldn't fix them all? Like, we struggled all last year with them, and we struggled all season with them this year. So I don't know, but I have a healthy amount of skepticism, I would say, and I you know I will believe it when I see it. I'll show you how when I'm talking about Loperfido, I'll show you exactly how I think the Astros are going to use him, and I wrote about like how the Astros are going to use Abreu. Will Abreu and Loperfido start? Right. Well, that's the article that went out this morning. I'll reference that in a minute here, and embedded in that, I included Dana Brown's quotes because I think they're important to the whole story. So he said like he expect it's Espada's choice or it's Espada's decision, but he's expecting that Singleton is going to essentially be the starting first baseman and that they will essentially platoon Abreu in. And I'll show you exactly why that may be the plan here in a bit. But so here's my number one thing is like you can't change Abreu's age and you can't change the aging curve. So we'll see what happens. But he got like Abreu was great in the playoff last year. So and that was after he went and had 2 weeks off of an injury, supposedly on the back. So maybe they fix something. Maybe they figure something out. If they can figure things out like that in West Palm Beach, let's send Alex Bregman there for a few days and see what they can do with him too. I don't, it's kind of fresh. I'm hopeful and frustrated and like doubtful all at the same time, Clint.
Yeah, I think I told you whenever I saw it, I was like, this just feels like a lot of fluff right now.
Yeah.
It seems like a little bit more PR than actual updates and actual progress. So we'll see. I thought it would be surprising if they brought him straight back into Oakland, but I was like, well, maybe they like some pitching matchups and maybe they think they can get him rolling against Oakland and it would work out. But I think it's going to be similar to what we've talked about previously with how the bottom of the order is going to work, where we're being more selective about how he gets in the games and how what pitchers he's going to face and situations like that. So I'm obviously hoping he can return to that playoff form. Obviously, in the regular season, more so than just the playoffs itself. But let's give
Yeah.
kudos. I just want to give kudos real quick to John Singleton for being as good as he's
Yeah.
been. He's been a surprise in a lot of ways, but he's been consistent. And, I mentioned it in your video earlier today. He's a bit of an unsung hero with the quality ABs he puts up. So it's really awesome
Right.
to see that. So we'll move right along into one of our, I say, most fans' favorite guy right now, Joey Loperfido. They love to see him, love to watch him play, and how we're going to use him now that Chaz has come back.
So I know this table is an eye chart to anybody watching this right now. And I really like what I'll say is follow the two links to the left. The first one is a link to YouTube where I spent Clint, I don't know, I don't remember how I spent longer than I intended to going through an article where I really delved into this data. I went through it in detail. I'm not going to do that tonight. In fact, that's part of the reason I did that video so that I wouldn't do it tonight. So, this is a teaser for that. Follow the link and this, I will have the slide deck uh, in an article on the site in an hour or two after we're done tonight. But you can go to my YouTube channel, LarryTheGM YouTube channel, and you'll see Astros will Abreu and Loperfido ever start. And then there's also an article that has the tables in it. So what I will tell you is focus on the kind of the middle column. That's the typical LarryTheGM heat map where it's blue and red. Red in this case is obviously good. Blue is bad. And the color coding that's on the names you're going to see in a little bit. But basically, the redder it is, the better they are. Okay, and I basically broke up the ex-wova into groups. And red obviously is the best. Orange is the second best. Yellow is basically near average. Then start with light blue, Let's start with blue. I mean, start with green, then blue. And you see Loperfido in black in a couple places. And you see McCormick in purple. Purple and black are the worst on this table. And you'll see that this team, and we've talked about this before, Clint, is a really good hitting fastball team. In fact, versus the fastballs versus lefties, you can almost put all the names in a hat, and you'd end up with, and you like who's playing first, one of the first basemen, put them out there. Who's playing left field, who's playing center field, put their names in a hat and just roll them out there, and you'd end up with a pretty decent group playing against that fastball pitcher. The problem or the challenge comes, and this is what to be. I'm not trying to make an ad again, but this is what the moneymakers see on a daily basis. When you understand the pitcher distributions, like they're throwing, obviously they may be throwing 60% fastballs with 30% breaking pitches, sliders and curves, and then 10% off speed. You can see how like our players are way worse generally of hitting, and those are the bottom numbers in this table, way worse at hitting off speed pitches and breaking pitches. There's one really interesting exception to that, and that's Dubon. And I mean, I had a conversation with some people I really respect yesterday, and like, why is Dubon ever playing? Well, because if that pitcher that's pitching has a tendency to throw a lot of off-speed pitches to right-handed hitters, Dubon's got to be in there, right? That's what this table is telling you. So if you've got a right-handed pitcher that throws a lot of off-speed pitches, that's really becomes like 40% off-speed pitches, Dubon's part of the answer there, guys, because McCormick and Myers are frankly terrible against the off-speed pitch. And so, Clint, why don't you go to the next? So understand that this data is what I use to build the next table. And the next table is really like who should play versus these kinds of pitchers. Now, guys, it's not as easy to say, well, that's a fastball dominant pitcher, and that's a breaking pitch dominant pitcher, and that's an off-speed pitch, because most pitchers are throwing a mix of all these things, right? But I'm just trying to get you into the realm of and guys, I really truly believe this is how the Astros are making these decisions on a daily basis at a fairly like 10,000 foot level. They're going much deeper. They're actually looking at the individual pitches, maybe a longer history. This is data that's 2023 and 2024. It brings in the data from the minor leagues for Loperfido and Singleton with a factor applied to that. So you're getting a true representation. And you see the results of this is that and I put 3 different options for fastball pitchers, mainly because for the table below, I'm just calling each one of these 20% of a pitcher. And generally, if you were to think about it, most like 60% of pitchers are fastball dominant pitchers. Either lefty or righty. So the tops are left, the bottoms are right, and you see who I would recommend as the options versus that kind of pitcher based on the data that's in the previous table, based on the data that's in the article, same charts, and you can see what it looks like. So when you look at the data at the bottom, this is where I think Astro fans get frustrated, and they don't really. I don't want to sound egotistical. I don't want to sound like you just don't understand. But I'm really, a lot of the feedback, it just tells me people don't get what the Astros are doing. They're playing the matchup game with these guys, mainly because, and we can talk about Myers in a minute, but like for the most part, they don't have. Notice we're not talking about right field here. Kyle Tucker's the start every night, right? And we're not really talking about second base because Jose Altuve is the starter every night. We're not really talking about shortstop because Jeremy Pena should be starting every night. Or I mean, even last year, based on his defense, was worth starting. And we're really not worried about catcher because They have their own platoon system going on with the two catchers we have. It's really down to these three positions where there's a daily decision that the Astros are making, and they're making it based on a matchup. And at the end of the day, that what it says is like, if you look at the Singleton line, Singleton should play against about maybe 20% of the left-handed pitchers. When Abreu's back, I think they're going to give Abreu a chance versus most of the left-handed pitchers, and they're going to give Singleton a chance against most of the right-handed pitchers. So you translate that by default, because about 75% of the pitchers are right-handed, that means Singleton's your starter, right? And that's why I'm saying, like, when you understand what Dana Brown is saying, Dana Brown is telling you, like, hey, not only do we like what Singleton's done, but if we look at these metrics, he's really the right first baseman to be playing against a majority of the starters. So do all the math, and it comes out to about Singleton's going to start like 65% of the time. Loperfido's almost never going to start against a left-handed pitcher. I don't think he started against a single left-handed pitcher yet. He's come in, he's been maybe one. I have to think about that, but I know he's had some plate appearances versus lefties. They come in as relief pitchers. He's actually done really well, but his minor league data says don't ever do it. And so as a result of that, Loperfido is going to play almost all the time against lefties. And then Myers is a good mix. If that pitcher's mainly a fastball related dominant pitcher, Myers is a play either way, lefty or righty. McCormick is really, again, more of a lefty dominant against lefties. He'll play against some of the righties. Abreu, again, almost only the lefties, a little bit of the righties. And then Dubon has this really interesting deployment where he should play against those pitchers that are breaking dominant lefties and off-speed pitch lefties and righties. That's what my analysis, if you look at the xWOBA matchup data, says that the team should be doing. And guys, as a general rule, they're doing this quite often. I mean, there's been a couple times I'm like, what are they doing? And I have to, I mean, we're almost 50 games in, and there's maybe been 5 times I didn't really understand what they were doing. And guys, if you'll remember last year, that would have been like 40 times out of 50 I would have had issues. So that's why I've defended Espada so much, and like he's getting hammered. Like why isn't Myers playing every day? Well, Clint, I mean, we can go to the next slide, and it'll repeat the bottom table. All right, so again, the bottom table is that. So why isn't Jake start every day? Well, okay, so I tweeted this yesterday, and this is a little bit of word of caution. Like Jake Myers has been great at the beginning of a couple of almost every season he's had, including the season. Well, obviously he's been great this year. The problem is, and now last year is a little bit of a mixed bag story. Like last year, when people came back from injuries, Myers got his playing time drastically reduced. And so I always said, well, Myers is a player that needs to play every day. Well, I've got him playing 60% of the time in the table I'm showing at the top there. I think the challenge for him last year is he got that cut down to like 30%, 40%. Then he just started being bad. So the question is, I don't know if but through his career, April and May, 129 WRC plus player. Every other month, June forward, 81. Now, is it fair to say that, or did he get hurt in these years, or is there other factors? Guys, I'm just saying that we've been at this point. Last year, Jake Myers was hitting like 109 in early June WRC plus, and he ended in, I don't remember. It wasn't great in the 90s probably. And so The other warning sign for Jake Myers is that he's got a 415 BABIP versus right-handed pitching. So everything I just said related to xwOBA, that's muted a little bit if you look at like the X. And if you just look at the WOBA stats, you look at OPS, you may not even see that data right now because it's his BABIP's been so insanely high. Just for reference, about 295 to 300 is about normal BABIP. So, and again, as I showed in that first table, where Myers is purple versus right-handed off-speed pitchers, they need to monitor him versus off-speed pitches. If a guy has a decent off-speed pitch, a good changeup or a good splitter, I just don't think they're going to play him, and they're not going to play Jake Myers in those games because there's other options, including Dubon. So that's the story of like Loperfido, Abreu, how they all fit together, how this all works. And Clint, we've talked about the playing time mix here not being as easy as maybe the Astros fan base wants it to be, and that's because like we have a lot of really good players, and those good. And I'm not trying to say, Jake Myers is not a good player. He's a good player. I just think there's factions in this fan base that say, Jake. Well, this offseason I had to write 2 articles because the fan base was freaking out that we were going to have Jake Myers as a starting center fielder. And now half of those people are the ones that argue that Jake Myers should be playing every day. So I'm a little confused. Like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
Tim. Well, all these things can't be true. So the point is, we've got good players, but they're not MVP players. Now, Jake Myers can prove me wrong, and I would love to be the first to admit it. But that's where they sit right now with their multiple year statistics in there. Clint, I rambled for like a good 10 minutes there.
Okay. I think
ask
what it
questions or
really
clarify
boils
for the people.
Yeah, what it really boils down to for me, and a lot of fans will get wrapped into this, it's the hot hand fallacy. It's the player's hot, the player's great, he's hitting, he can hit anything, and that's not the case. That's not Most sports is not like that. Baseball's definitely not one like that. So I think we should just embrace the fact that we have a manager who's willing to put these guys in the successful positions that they have been put into this season as compared to the past few seasons. You know,
Right.
we also need to be kind of I guess we just need to also embrace and enjoy the fact that we have a lot of, I call them studs. We've got studs in the lineup. Those guys play every day because their potential to, they have such a higher ceiling in terms of their potential that it is just a no doubter type thing. That 7, 8, and 9 hole, especially now with Abreu playing at the level he is, Espada's got to be smart. He's got to be conscious of what they can and can't do. But I guess if you think about it this way and you look at all the other major league teams out there and how they would really love it if their center fielders and left fielders, they were just rotating between them and had a little bit of had those options and could kind of play that route. There's not a lot of ball clubs that have that. But they also don't have 6 guys that are going to get slotted in to
Right.
play every night, and I don't have to worry about it because if I don't get something out of them, I'm going to get something out of one of the other 5, the 7, 8, and 9. But let's not downplay either. The 7th, 8th, and 9 part of this lineup has been really good, and
Yeah.
we're not giving Espada enough credit for that.
Right.
So we'll switch gears. A little less defense, a little less offense. We'll get more into pitching here. Guys, I don't know if y'all noticed, but the bullpen's gotten better. It's been a really nice breath of fresh air. And so I think we talked about this in prior recaps, Larry. Like it was just a matter of time before things started to either come back to the norm or start to progress in a positive trend. And that's what you're seeing right now, guys, when you see the red all over. And pay attention, obviously, more to the FIP than the ERA. ERA numbers are always deceiving. That's why I sometimes don't like hearing them on broadcast as much. Same thing with batting average sometimes. But Larry is obviously going to talk about the FIP, but it's really good to see some of these guys start to bounce from blue to red.
Yeah. So Clint, I kind of almost wanted to tease. Maybe I should have. Like, do y'all know who the best pitching ERA bullpen has been since May 1st. That's your Houston Astros, guys. Your Houston Astros bullpen has a 2.2 ERA since May 1st. Now, as Clint said, y'all that have joined us on videos before or you've read stuff at the site, I really I treat ERA almost like some people treat batting average, right? I look much more at FIP because it's much I think it's much more predictive. And so the table, okay, so there's three tables there. The table on the left is really the one to focus on, but the table in the middle is the ERA. And you see the massive improvements of every single relief pitcher um, from the beginning of the season to April 30th, and then from May 1st till now. Like almost every relief pitcher has been doing great as far as an ERA standpoint, and the one of them, the two that haven't been, he's not even here anymore. He plays for Oakland now. When you look at it from a FIP standpoint, one of those two is actually Dubin looks even better, looks better relative to FIP than he does in ERA, and so and you also see why I freak out a little bit about Rafael Montero because his ERA numbers are way better than his FIP numbers, and there's a little bit of that
Well,
with Martinez
Larry,
too.
we talked about how that was probably going to happen a few weeks ago, so
Yeah,
we can take a little bit of take some credit for telling folks, hey, we kind of saw this coming a while back. So,
yeah. So don't be surprised. I mean, Montero is having a great month as far as ERA, but he's had a few blowups, and don't be surprised if that ERA further blows up. But by then I think we're gonna get some better options in the bullpen. As a reference here, Garcia, Murphy, and Urquidy are all set to start rehab assignments. And when Urquidy comes back, when Garcia comes back, then pitchers that are in the rotation, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going
yeah,
to do that. We'll talk about that probably in the next couple of weeks. Like we'll do the same sort of exercise we did on the batters with the pitchers again. Like what do we expect? How do we expect this team to deploy the pitchers as we get healthy? But the really good news here is like even the FIP has gone from the 23rd team to the 10th best team in the bullpen. So it's better. It's going to get better, and some of that may be competition too, Clint. Obviously the schedule is easier in May than it was in April. So there's all kinds of factors. But guys, the schedule, the Astros have the easiest schedule in the American League for the rest of the year, and you'll see that in a minute. So yeah, the bullpen is better, and let's hope it continues to be better. And notice the hater numbers. Like Hater was terrible early as far as the ERA, but notice that his FIP was still good. And we kept saying, pay attention to FIP, guys. Pay attention to Hater's FIP. It's still good. Pay attention. And Presley was the same thing. Presley's ERA was terrible in April, but pay attention to his FIP because these guys are way better than their ERAs are making it look.
yeah. And it just goes back to reiterate, guys, there's a reason why they didn't overspend and really seek a lot of pitching help, in the offseason. They have arms, they have some talent there. They kind of saw what was going to come, and it's going to be really interesting to watch them navigate whenever they get Garcia back and Urquidy, because you got a lot of innings that you now get to occupy with arms,
Mm-hmm.
and some fresher than others. Garcia was throwing off the mound at Minute Maid. That was really cool to see. And then we haven't yet to see Penn Murphy in an Astros uniform, but we know that there's a ton of upside there if he's healthy. And
Right.
I just want to give a shout out to Hunter Brown for flipping the script a little bit on what he's done these past couple starts and performances. I guess one of them wasn't a start, one of them's a relief position, but he has changed. He's developed, and I love seeing Hunter Brown when he throws 97, 98 sometimes. It's
Yeah.
power, and I think it plays really well with his splitter and what else he's got. You think about it, a lot of people don't realize it, but he throws 5, almost 6 pitches. It's
Mm-hmm.
he has a lot to offer, and a spotter might end up having a bounty of riches here soon with some arms and being able to occupy innings and helping get his relievers, some rest.
So as we transition to this next slide, I really want this to be interactive. So folks that are here, no, let me say it again. If you're watching this on the Twitter side, jump to the YouTube side and please, Clint and I are about to go through our concerns and our reasons for confidence. And I would love to hear your concerns and your reasons for confidence. So jump to the YouTube side, go to my Twitter page, and you can find the link to my YouTube channel. Jump on there, like the video, subscribe to the channel while you're there, and then give us your concerns and your reasons for confidence. Let's make this a little interactive. But Clint, let's go. Let's start with you want the good news or bad news? I say, well, let's start with the bad news. All right. So, what are the 3 concerns for the rest of the season? You want to take the first one, Clint?
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier. Like, is this real? Are we gonna actually get a true? If we were to able to get 80% of what Jose Abreu was in the postseason last year, I think we'd be really happy. I mean, I think we'd be ecstatic.
Right.
But we, I think it's gonna all be contingent on that, piece right there, because we kind of saw what happens to that lineup when they put that gaping hole in
Right.
there. And guys, it's not so much that he wasn't hitting; it was just his ABs were bad too. I'm
They
sorry,
weren't
they
even
really were.
competitive. Yeah.
There's not a lot of competitive ABs. When you watch someone like Singleton have competitive ABs, and then all of a sudden you're gonna see Abreu come back in, and could be a 3-pitch out. You're gonna understand why we like Singleton so much.
Yeah, and Brandon makes a good point. I mean, I think the question is, if Jose, see the challenge for Abreu is if they do implement the kind of time share that I'm talking about, where it's essentially a straight, more or less a platoon with Jose Abreu and John Singleton, with Singleton getting the majority side of that, like 70% of the 60 to 70% of the starts. Like, I don't know how Jose Abreu is going to do with that, right? Because that's not what Jose Abreu's ever had in his career. So can he at age 37 or 38, I forget which one it is now, can he adjust to being a part-time player that's a a pinch hitter versus left-handed pitching, or spot starter versus left-handed pitching, maybe an occasional starter versus fastball dominant right-handers, if he's able to catch up to it, because he was last year, but he hasn't this year. So, how long do they give Jose Abreu? I don't know.
And my other point would be, guys, I know people have said, oh, he's hitting well in West Palm Beach against prospects
Yeah.
and folks that are not on the major league roster right now. And I understand it's like, well, it's the Oakland Athletics. There is still a big difference. And Abreu in my opinion, for me, he's got a lot of work to do to justify why he should start over Singleton in a very plus or large, in a large ratio or percentage. So hopefully he does, but I would say right now it's Singleton's job to lose in a lot of ways.
And so, concern number 2, and I kind of grouped these, Clint, like the position underperformers. I mean, there's 3 of them beside Jose Abreu, right? Bregman is like almost 60 points below his career WRC plus. Now, I don't think any of the projection systems said Bregman's going to hit a 134, which is what his career WRC plus is. But if you told me he was going to hit 120, I think, or even 115, that would be reasonable. He's hitting 75. He had like 5 games where he looked like his old self again, and then he's been gone for the last 5 games. So I don't know. I mean, I'm never going to write Alex Bregman off. That's what I said when he was hot, but I just hope that he can find it, right? And so, and guys, any other of your concerns, throw them in, please. McCormick, yeah. So McCormick, how much of McCormick's um, McCormick's issues early were injury related because apparently he was been struggling with some of the things he ultimately went to the injured list for most of the year. So I don't really know. That was what I read or heard somewhere. So like I really want to see what McCormick's going to do now that he's healthy. But here's the deal: if what I'll say about this concern is if Chas McCormick isn't going to produce, he's just not going to play because there's too many other options, as I just showed you in the table. Like if McCormick gets a lot of credit for all of his inflated numbers from last year, which may have been his career year, guys. If McCormick's not doing that this year, he's just not gonna play. And like Loperfido is going to get 80 to 100% of the starts versus right-handed pitching at that point. So, um, and you're right, Brandon. McCormick could be traded, and somebody will say we can resurrect Charles McCormick 2023 version. And then there's Alvarez, and the moneymakers know about this one. Clint, you've seen this one. Like Alvarez is killing the moneymakers. We started with that, and he's 37 points below his career WRC plus. That he's not getting hits with runners in scoring position, or he wasn't as of the last before the series when I did the series matchup. So we need Alvarez, and there's been signs of hope in this series that maybe we can say that maybe there's signs there that maybe we're gonna get peak Alvarez again. But all three of those guys, it's time for all three of them to show up and prove it, right? And let's see it. So there's those three guys, and I mean Abreu's just in a totally different category. Those three guys are disappointing, and Jose Abreu was just like not even a major league player, right? Well, not even a rookie league player for the first month he was here. So now is Abreu fixed, and are those guys going to be able to bounce back? That's two major concerns for this team.
So we had disappointments, and obviously those three guys, but we had failure in Abreu's start.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm categorizing it. But I think my biggest concern with Bregman, and it goes into Alvarez too, and it's kind of what I alluded to earlier, is sometimes it's easy to get so dominant like pull side for these guys because that's where the homers come from. Bregman is not it's not going to be an opposite field power guy. I would think, especially now going into his age 30, going into age 30 and this being this season. But Alvarez is another one. I mean, how rare is it to see him go opposite field lately? It's almost non-existent, and I think that's a tool that we talk about, and that's kind of what Bregman was talking about when he meant, I need to get the handle past the ball. When you get the handle past the ball, that keeps your head and your body behind it, guys, and you're trying to drive the ball from your back foot forward. If you've ever seen Teacher Man hitting on YouTube, or you just watch really quality hitters, it all starts from that back foot. Left foot for Alvarez, right foot for Bregman, and it's kind of what I've been afraid with Alvarez is that pitchers are throwing him down and away and up and in, and they're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Either I'm going to catch him too far out in front on a fastball and he can't keep up with it, or I'm going to catch him too far on his front foot that he's never going to be able. He's going to swing right over the top and out in front of an off-speed pitch. So I would love to see those guys work the opposite way, figure it out. McCormick, I'm worried about the power, and I think he's also in a situation where there's just so many other options where they might just be like, we can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if McCormick's either going to produce or he's not going to get playing time. So, starting pitching. So, I mean, you guys, there's no surprise here. Brown's been challenging. His ERA is now down to 7. It's a 5.53 FIP. He had a really good start, and he really, it should have been, the results should have been even better than they were for both him and for, who's the other pitcher that kind of got late runs that shouldn't have gotten runs, but Verlander. Yeah. Okay. So you're probably surprised to see Verlander in this list, right? Like Verlander's been great, Larry. He had one bad game. Well, his 3.97 ERA is not a problem. That's better than league average. That's good, or right at league average. That's good. His 5.22 FIP is what I'm worried about, and so I I reserve the right to be wrong. Would love to be wrong about Verlander. I realize this is kind of like betting against Bregman or talking against Bregman when I bring up Verlander here. And then, guys, I wrote about the Fromber blow up. I was really, 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 really troubled by that whole inning. What happened? I was really troubled when I watched it a second and a third time with Fromber's body language. I broke it down, pitch by batter. Um, go to that article, go to the YouTube channel, and you can see my breakdown of Fromber. Stay with me through the whole thing, and you might be a little scared too. Like maybe they can just talk to Fromber and like, look, you own the pitch that you're pitching, but you got to stay with the game plan, and that you can't if you want to deviate from the game plan, then don't get out on the mound and start doing it. Let's talk about it in the dugout before you go out on the mound for the next inning, and let's talk about it.
Yeah,
And so I don't know if this is a concern or an opportunity, but like, what are we going to get from Garcia, Urquidy, and McCullers when they get back? When will they get back, and how will they be when they get back? I mean, I think that's a concern, and it's also an opportunity. It could be a good thing, So maybe it's not even fair to call that a concern. But there's some pitching. Like, guys, we spent a lot of time talking about the offense, but really the issues with this team are the pitching, and like and Brown and Verlander need to be those fifths need to be done in the fours, and things will get significantly better. Clint, I think you were jumping in. What did you?
No, I was just gonna. I don't know if we ever had a real chance to talk about Fromber. Obviously not on air, not live, but if we could maybe just 60 seconds or so. But I knew the minute that sinker started getting up above 95, 97, I was like, this is an issue. This is a problem. And anybody who knows me or has read anything that I've ever written, I hate when Fromber throws that hard. It just never works. The sinker doesn't sink in that method. It's like, imagine a spaghetti noodle and you track the pitch and then you're throwing it 98, you're just stretching it, making it flatter and straighter, easier for hitters to hit. But I think what was telling for me, Larry, and I think let's pat ourselves on the back for a minute, because we talked about how, and I'm going to go into a little bit of Maldi hate for a second. We talked about how everybody said that there was no way that these pitchers could function without Maldonado. Well, we've seen them perform a game plan that these coaches and these catchers execute to perfection, and then we've seen what happens when they deviate and do their own thing. And I think Fromber's start was a huge reflection of why this pitching staff is in a much better place. And I think this plays into the last part about Garcia, McCullers, maybe McCullers and Urquidy. This pitching staff is in a much better place with somebody like Joe Espada, who's looking at data, understanding it, really putting in the time to put them in better situations. And, just kind of blend that all together. There's no way on earth the coaches, the front office, those guys do not have a plan, and there's no way on earth that Yainer Diaz or Victor Caratini are not privy to that plan. The interviews say it, everything, and I think personally, if it was me, if I was managing, I would have been like, I'm going to make Fromber wear this because he's laughing and he's having a S fit, a poop fit, a crap fit, and he can't figure out why. Well, it's written down in the plan that we talked about before we even did this. So that's my
Right,
little
and
bit
he
of a
was pretty
rant.
humble
Sorry.
yeah, and he was pretty humble after it happened. He shouldered all the blame. He said Diaz was calling the right pitches, and I had to deviate from it. So, I mean, guys, and in a way, it's like, well, I mean, Maldi might have just gone and barked at him, like, and maybe that's what he needed at the moment. I mean, guys, that's just not Diaz's personality. But at the end of the day, so what's right? What's really in the best health of this team? What's in the best health of the team is for the manager and the pitching coach to say, look, We have a game plan for this game, and our catchers are going to implement that game plan. It's ultimately it's up to you if you want to change the pitch, but and you go to the Fromber's blow up, guys. He's throwing pitches that he should never have been throwing. The batters in that situation, especially in game situations, like why are we throwing this pitch? Like why aren't we throwing the other pitches that these batters are not good against, and we're throwing the pitches that they're it's like batting practice for Joe Adell. And
Well,
so
what
it was a
what
frustrating
was worse
thing.
about it, Larry, was he was throwing his B or C or potentially D rated pitches to A plus rated hitters on those pitches. So it's like I'm going to throw my
Exactly.
weakest pitch to their strength instead of
Correct.
throwing my strength against strength. It just completely, like I said, it backfired. It went horribly wrong for him.
And if I were able sometime to ask the Astros, like, what happened to Fromber's slider? Are we just abandoned it? We did, I don't know what's going on with that. And so there's a couple things like like where's the cutter? I mean, a cutter at least was as a like a 1% pitch, but don't seem to be throwing it at all. And the slider being used almost like half the time, half as much as it was last year. There were a couple guys in that inning, guys. The sliders would have been the right call, and we didn't do it. So, all right, those are the concerns. Now we spent a lot of time on the concerns, and people are going to think, man, these guys are really negative tonight. Well, let's go. Let's go. Reasons we're confident. All right. So number one, the models, the Fangraphs model says that this team, even with the horrible start they are, even with the below 500 record they have, is a 49.4% chance for making the playoffs. And you may say, well, that sucks. It should, like this point in other seasons, it would have been 80 or 70 or 80. Well, right. In those other seasons, we didn't start out this bad, right? So at the end of the day, the injuries that led to the horrible start with the schedule we had, we are where we are. And yet, even where we are, we still have almost a 50% chance of making the playoffs. The schedule, as I mentioned earlier, is by the Fangraphs metrics, and they take into account expected results for the rest of the season and their calculation. The the schedule is the easiest schedule in the American League. So I'm sorry, but I have confidence that this team is going to be okay. And we've got Clint. I just went to Las Vegas a year too early and put my bets down on Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez last year for MVP because I think Tucker and the MLB press, they're saying Kyle Tucker is probably the MVP right now. And so Kyle Tucker is a beast. And if Larry the GM tells you in the Moneymaker articles not to bet on him that night, like, I don't know, take me with a grain of salt because I did that once this week, and it's going to be hard for me to ever give that recommendation again. Jake Myers, if Jake Myers cannot have the June swoon, and we can see Jake Myers be the Jake Myers that we have, Jake Myers is playing like a poor man's version of Kyle Tucker, guys.
Yeah.
I think it's 137 and maybe 139 WRC plus. He's doing incredibly, and then part of that is because they're not exposing him to pitchers that he be particularly weak against. So a little credit goes to the spot and the staff for protecting him. And to be fair, I think Dusty did some of this with both Myers and McCormick last year. Jeremy Pena is on a pace to deliver 5.05 WAR. Like he's off to an incredible start. Can that continue? Should we have Pena batting second? I think it's going to become a theme that if Bregman can't really be a key contributor, then Pena second, Alvarez third, or maybe Tucker third and Alvarez fourth may be the answer. Dubon is having a great little season and doing his role. And I think we're going to see him be more in the utility role, playing a lot against off-speed pitches, like I said. He's almost. I mean, okay, it's a little exaggeration here to say he's got like Marwin 2017 vibes, but
Hmm.
that's almost the way I expect. If we could see Dubon being the super utility, filling all gaps, because now that we have McCormick back, he's not really needed in the outfield as much as he's played in the outfield. This is also where the whole discussion of Abreu. If Abreu comes back and fails, I don't think the team is going to. At that point, I think the team's going to jettison him, and Dubon may be playing more first base versus left-handed hitters, because I think what we did with Singleton was a little bit rough. I think we played Singleton too much,
Yeah.
but Singleton's still a 104 WRC plus player, and so guys, all those guys are overperforming what their expectations should have been. And we talked about the guys that are underperforming. It's like no one's performing at the level they're supposed to, or what we were projected. We got guys that are over, we got guys that are under. It's like, oh my gosh, Caratini could be on the overperformer list too. It just
Yeah.
it. I guess it's kind of crazy. I guess Diaz is maybe the closest to being in the ballpark of where one might have expected him really to be, having to play a lot more catcher. And I think Diaz and Caratini. I think we're going to see a little bit more Caratini and a little less Diaz going forward, and a little less Diaz in the DH role to give him some more time off. All right, so those are position overperformers. Clint, do you want to say anything
And
about any of those guys?
I just wanted to one thing before I talk about those guys. If you're watching right now, either channel, I know you can. If you have any questions, so that we can so Larry and I can get to them in the Q&A, start sending them now. We'll run through them at the end, as we always do. But just a little tidbit for y'all to get those in as soon as you can. I think the interesting thing is, guys, l- I- please appreciate what you're getting out of Kyle Tucker this year. It is phenomenal.
Yeah,
He is one of the most fun guys to watch hit because of how classic and kind of old school his swing is. But I kid you not, it is just phenomenal to watch him. And he couldn't have picked a. We couldn't have gotten luckier to have him hitting the way he is in this year with guys like Alvarez and them not performing at the level that we should be, or we expected. I've always been high on Jeremy Pena. I love that. And I think what we're really just hoping is that if some of these guys kind of start, I say regressing to the mean, is obviously not a bad thing for them. Things start to level out for them, it's gonna get better, and I think the upside is just there, and so we should all be excited.
yeah, Clint. Honestly, if we had the overperformers come back to the mean a little bit and the underperformers come up to the mean a little bit, it probably would actually be better for the
Yeah.
overall offense. So yeah, Pena's probably not going to be a 5 WAR player by the end of the year, but like if he's a 3.5 to 4 WAR player, man, that's a really strong shortstop, guys. And
That's
and and I agree, World Traveler. Pena batting second. He's historically done really well when he's in the two
mhm.
hole, because he's got somebody. They're afraid. Part of the reason Pena, I think, does so well in the two hole is because they have to pitch to him, and they can't like be thrown. I mean, the slider. They have to either get the slider over the plate for a strike, or they have to. They can't be wasting a bunch of sliders and hoping he's going to chase them. And so because then he can get a walk, and then they got, oh crap, now I got Kyle Tucker coming with a runner on, like you said. Let's not let's
With
let's
speed,
not have
yeah.
Kyle Tucker hit solo home runs. Let's hit him hit 2 3 run home runs, right? So
And it may be a great thing too to move Jordan down right behind him in a different
right.
situation, because then the pressure's not so much on Tucker. It's like I got to deal with both of them back to back with a runner on. Runners on really change pitchers' approach big time. You can't throw it down in the dirt as much. You can't be as aggressive with those hitters, because that runner will just run free. Especially with the rule changes now and how everything works, it's not the most friendly thing for them. So I agree with World Travel too as well. I think Joe Espada is in a good spot to make some really good decisions for them, and so we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks, and then we'll talk about the relief pitching improvement. And Larry, I'm just going to say it right off the bat: if Hader's throwing that slider like the way he is, we have all sorts of reasons to be happy about Josh Hader and why we brought him here.
Yeah, the back end of the bullpen, at least the last two are really coming in. Brian Abreu getting better, but there's still some worry signs there, and so let's get Abreu 100% fixed on that. I mean, I think he's had some really good starts and really good appearances this week. And then with Penn Murphy come. I mean, just full disclosure, the projection models don't really have Murphy as that much of a help to the bullpen because the rest of the guys in the bullpen are okay. But there's also going to be like, who goes to the bullpen when Garcia comes back? Who goes to the bullpen? I mean, does McCullers stay in the bullpen? Does McCullers go to the starter? Like who? We're like you said earlier, Clint. We're about to have some really interesting opportunities for pitching decisions and
Pitching
probably some better
situation is going
pitching
to give Larry
matchups
and I
too.
yeah, it's going to give us plenty of content to work on. That's for sure.
Yeah,
But I think what the benefit of Murphy is, and I know from from the data standpoint, it doesn't show much of improvement. What it does, it's another pitcher to throw another inning.
correct.
To take 15, 20, 25 pitches off of the plate of what those other folks are facing. You know, and kudos to Taylor Scott for being as good as he's been, but
Right.
if you imagine a Pim Murphy who's effective, that guy sliding into where Montero pitches right now, that could change the way the whole game turns out together because it's just one of those things, man. I don't think that folks really comprehend, and I don't want to get on too much of a tangent, how valuable it is to have guys who can throw and take over those innings and throw those pitches and kind of help alleviate the pressure, not just game wise, but body wise, physically that goes on these bullpen guys. They have to warm up fast. They got to be ready quick. Like it's not easy. And we talked about this with the whole Fromber thing. What happened? Why not? Well, this is the reason why some of the stuff happened that game is because those relievers don't always have the most time to get ready, and you can't rush that. That could lead to injury and discomfort. And we know how much the Astros face discomfort sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's a positive regardless of how much it might actually swing the or move the needle from our perspective.
Yeah, I mean, World Traveler, we have to believe that McCullers is coming back. I mean, I think they're talking, late July, early August, and if he does come back, and if he's even like 90% of who McCullers has been when he's healthy, that's going to be a really another great weapon. And I have a feeling they may just leave him in the bullpen as a long reliever, which would be a really incredible weapon to have in the bullpen if you have a Lance McCullers that can give you 2 innings every 3 days or something like that. So, all right, Clint. Question.
Well,
Oh well, yeah, Clint. Why don't you take
yeah,
this?
guys, the World Baseball Classic is coming to Houston. I know how awesome is that. I believe it's the semifinal or no
It,
quarterfinal. The quarterfinal games will be there.
it's the opening round and it's
Yeah,
the semifinals, right? It's
right.
2 rounds.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's awesome. That's great for the city of Houston. That's great for Astros baseball, but that's great. And I've already seen some of the Twitter stuff that comes across from the Astros about it, and it'll be really awesome to see some of that talent from all across the world, guys. That's what's really awesome. So, before I move over to Q&A, Larry, anything about that or?
No, I think it's an opportunity. I mean, I think Astros fans are gonna be really excited about that and enjoy, guys, enjoy.
Got about maybe 2 years ish to start making those travel plans, so get on it
There
now.
you go.
And
So
so Larry
questions.
and I, yeah, Larry and I come into this expecting questions. We figure there will be questions. I'm a little disappointed there are not any questions at the moment. I know World Travel had a few and we got to them early, but guys, don't let us down. If you have anything, we'll hang out for just a minute or so. But if not, you know, Larry, I think we've got a fun little series coming up. We got games that they should win, and we're gonna get Ronald Blanco back. That'll be nice. We'll see how he pitches after that snafu on the
Yeah.
mound.
Well,
But
I mean, it's a
anything
really
that's
big week, right? I mean, if the Astros
yeah,
are going to make a move in the division, We got to go to Oakland and get at least 2 or 3 there, and then we're going to Seattle, right? And like it's on. That's
Yep.
what I say. Like it's on. This literally could be. Um, this could be the move. All right. Can we dispel the myth that Bagwell is the secret GM making roster calls in Florida?
He wasn't in Florida very long, so
I
I don't
think
know if you noticed that. I got a kick out of that. It's like he went down there to help Jose Abreu, and then there he is, and I'm like, come on, man.
yeah,
Sorry, that
Miss
does
Scott.
worth
There's a lot of
choking.
smoke and mirrors with
Yeah,
there's a lot of dysfunction and smoke and mirrors with this front office, and I don't put any of that on Dana Brown or Joe Espada. And I said something in a you can find the tweet thread where I just like dispel all the rumors, and I just I do think that our owner needs to let Dana Brown do his job, because maybe unlike most of the people in this fan base, I really appreciate what guys. Dana Brown is the guy that got John Singleton here last year, right? I mean, does anybody like he he picked up a guy that is playing like a an average level first, slightly above average level first base, and he got him off the waiver heap for nothing, and he's saving their butts as far as like who's playing first base. Dana Brown has done a great job in the draft. Look at the work that's happening with. I mean, he's showing confidence to Loperfido to get him here. I think he's got a great sense of what needs to happen, and I think the Astro fan last year Astro fans were giving all sorts of excuses for the start of the team and the challenges the team had, and like, oh man, they had all these terrible injuries. And I mean, I wrote about, guys, yeah, the Astros had some injuries, but not like one of the least impacted teams as far as injury goes. This year they've had a literal mass unit through their pitching staff, and Astro fans want to blame the manager and blame the GM. Like, guys, we've had at
yeah.
times 4 or 5 starters on injured lists, and we're running out guys that I'm sure Dana Brown really had no one. I don't think Dana Brown went into the season intending to have Blair Henley start a game for the Houston Astros. And it's just like, come on, can we have a little bit of appreciation? And what Dana Brown was doing through them most of the time, like, why are we sitting guys down and every other day? He was literally just running arms through and getting and letting those arms take the beating, because he knew that they really weren't what they were going to do. But in games that got out of hand, he wanted those guys to take the beating and save the arms for the good guys, and and then the good guys were blowing saves. So it wasn't Dana Brown's fault that this team had 9 blown saves, and it really wasn't Joe Espada's fault that they had 9. We had the right guys in, and they literally were cratering. So at the end of the day, we played an extremely tough schedule at the beginning of the year, and Mrs. Scott is like, man, I asked a simple question and Larry just gone off, right? So, but that is it's so frustrating to me, because I kept telling you guys it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better,
Yeah.
and people are saying, Larry, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, okay, I'm the guy that said they were gonna. What did I say? 17-12 this month, and I really feel like they're gonna be just fine. And I said it back in the dark ages. I'm the guy that said when they lost the second game to the Yankees that would be the most negative you would feel about the Astros the entire season. And I swear that's going to be true. That after since that Yankee series, we're gonna start feeling much better about this team. So I don't know, Clint. I don't know if I even answered the question, but I don't.
I
In
think
short,
what
I
we have
don't
to
think that Jeff Bagwell's really the GM, But I do think that our owner has a propensity to listen way too much to an aging ball player with a lot of opinions, and his buddy Reggie Jackson. So, well,
My big
Trevor,
thing
you
about
be
Dana
glad
Brown
you
is,
missed the first 2 weeks.
yeah,
Be glad.
yeah. Dana Brown is, I think Dana Brown has a real eye for talent. I think he really sees it on the baseball field. And I think it's just a matter of time before it starts to show. He has a pretty good track record in Atlanta with being able to be a part of an organization that knows how to build and draft quality players and make right moves. And then, so I think it's a matter, it's kind of a war of attrition with him. You kind of have to wear it on your chest. But I would say right now, if you really thought the Astros were wanting to pitch Blair Finley, he would still be in the rotation, guys. I mean, it'd be that simple. If there was a real want for it, he'd still be there. And Brandon asked about Lauer, which Larry, you and I kind of touched base about it a little bit. My biggest thing for him was, this is a guy that was drafted in the first round when he came out. So there's obviously some talent and some upside there. And I think personally, the Astros are just like, we need to have depth. We need to have someone ready to fill in the event that there's an injury or there's someone is unable to return as we are projecting. Then you might see Lauer in a position. I don't know if we're going to get too much of Lauer, and I might also say maybe Lauer won't be happy about that either, because he does have some clauses in that contract that allows him to opt out at, I think, July 1st and August 1st, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's July 31st and August 31st. It's one of those dates.
I mean, as far as Lauer goes, I think it's another example of Dana Brown doing his job, getting them an option for if something happens. Like, let's get a guy in here that at least we can pull up to the majors, put on the 40-man, put him, and get him going.
Yeah, and
And
he's got
at
major league.
least have some confidence he's not going to fall apart.
And he's got experience, so I know everybody's like, well, he's been in the league a while. Yeah, but I think he's 28, so he's got experience. He knows how to manage, work through some of those situations. So it's like, we're going to find a way to add some depth in a very low risk, high reward type way. And that's what Dana Brown's been doing.
So, lots of great comments, guys. I appreciate all the interaction. And so,
Yeah.
Brandon, the question about can I do a video on the general outlook of the rest of the AL West compared to the Astros? I would ask you, go to the article, like, well, here's how the Astros make the postseason still. That's kind of my take on it. Like, I really think that they're going to make this team is going to make the postseason. I walked you through how I think the team is very much like the 2005 Astros, only kind of reverse roles, where that team was a pitching dominant team. This team's going to be a hitting dominant team, and the pitching staff was terrible. The hitting was horrible, and it got a little bit better, close to the league average. And I think that's kind of, the pitching was horrible, and it's going to be league average or better before the year. So, guys, that's where I think we're at. So, guys, I love the comments. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, World Traveler. Please subscribe to, follow the links to get both Clint and I YouTube channel. We both need the subscribers there. Please leave a comment or two on the video if get some YouTube engagement. I will put the slide deck that we have on the site, so you can look at that with a link to the video, so people that didn't watch the video can go to the video and watch it. But guys, this is what Clint and I do. I know it's not we're an hour and 15 minutes in, or hour and 13 minutes in, and Clint and I are saying, well, maybe we can get another hour. Like, well, it never happens, because Clint and I love talking baseball, and it's gonna be a different style than most of the video content. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody else. We're just going to go deeper. We're going to throw numbers up there. We're going to ask you to go with us on the journey as we actually dig deep into the data. And so that's what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to do every week. Every Thursday that's an off day, we'll be doing it on a Thursday, and we'll figure it out. We had a watch along. Maybe we'll do another watch along at some point, Clint. But guys, I thank you for joining us, and please stay engaged. please, and if you really, really, really want to bless me and make me feel like you really appreciate me, become a premium or moneymaker member on the website. If you have any desire to make wise betting choices or wise fantasy baseball choices, become a moneymaker member. I'm working on some bonus, like I'm about to blow the moneymakers away. Not soon. It may take a few weeks, but they're about to get more data than they even the moneymakers can handle. So um, we're working on some stuff for them. All
Yeah,
right,
and
guys.
I would
Clint,
just say
anything else? I went on
I
a
see,
rampage. Go
you
ahead.
know, no, it's okay. I see Gabby, I see World Traveler, I see Miss Scott. I have not got any notifications that any of them have subscribed to my YouTube channel. I don't know if you've gotten them, Larry, but it's like if you're here right now, it's an easy click. Just look up Clint the Scout on
Yeah.
YouTube, look up Larry the GM on YouTube, look up those same names on Twitter, give us a like, give us a follow. Just help us try to help y'all. And if you have any requests in terms like does this work better at a certain time? You know, when we're trying to work with the Astro schedule, obviously, but if there's a time thing, if there's anything we can do to get you guys to come out more often and be a part of it, how can we make this better? Because guys, we thrive on hearing from y'all and sharing this with you guys. So the more that we can do, the better. And you know, we're men of the fans and we really want to provide something great. And Larry obviously does that day in and day out. I'm here. I support as much as I can. And, you know, guys, we're just happy to share this with y'all. So, you know, that being said, Larry, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, I think Clint, you've got some work to do on some of these batters. You got to figure out how to make them better.
Yeah, I know. I throw little tidbits in these videos and then you know, but it's hard though because I would love to show visuals. I'd love to really get into it, but
Yeah.
I just don't have the full capacity to put video side by side and do that. But maybe that's something I need to work on. So if there's anybody out there listening and they have any ways to help me or something like that, I'd be really interested to talk with you and learn as well.
ClintTheScout is awesome when he gets into this stuff, guys. All right. Thanks, guys. And thanks for joining.
Yep.
Thank you, Clint.
Thanks.